And see that building with the white wheel of cheese on top? That's our home for the next 3 nights. We would pull into Montreal Central Station, and after a short walk down the street, we were walking up the steps of the Chateau Champlain for a quick check-in up to the 31st floor for our home for 3 nights here in Montreal. Oh, wow. This is nice. Look at that. Now, of course, this video is about the Chateau Champlain, but the railway hotels were built to import tourism to Canada and its most worthy cities. So I want to highlight 4 absolute hidden gems worthy of going completely out of your way for here in Montreal. And it starts off at the Old Port of Montreal, specifically here at Bota, Montreal's premier floating Nordic spa. Bota actually started off as a passenger ferry in the 1950s and would later be converted to a floating movie theater, but at the turn of the 21st century, the current owners would purchase it, and after some structural touch-ups, 2010 would see the vessel anchored at the Port of Montreal, and in December of that year, Montreal's newest spa would open its doors. And Bota literally has everything you could possibly want, from a blissful outdoor hot tub facing the skyline of Old Montreal, to the multiple saunas that they have facing in both directions, but my personal favorite is their water circuit that has a cold tub outside on the starboard side of the deck, which I absolutely loved, especially as the sun was coming down to hit my skin out of the water. And they also have an indoor cold tub if that's more your style, which had a little bit more space for me to fit in, considering I'm a very large human being. And when you're done, you hit the hammock, decompress and relax a little bit. All in all, I cannot recommend Bota enough. You have to come here and experience probably the biggest hidden gem in all of Montreal. Now, the next hidden gem in Montreal is actually just a short couple-minute walk away from Bota. And to be honest, I don't think you can say that you love Montreal without stopping at the Grand Rue, which is Montreal's Ferris wheel. And I'll be honest, listen, I'm absolutely terrified of heights, but it's actually pretty cool being on top of all of Montreal. And hey, you see that Zamboni down there? That's actually the next hidden gem, because you can actually skate there. We would head down, put my jets on, put on Bella's skates as well, and help her tie them up, because, you know, she's not great at tying her skates, and as much as she loves when I tie them up, I also love doing them for her. So after that, we would try not to fall and head down to the port. Safe to say that we have definitely made some progress in her skating, and I'm super proud of her, but there's still a little bit more room to go. So I'll keep you posted on that as time goes on. Now, for the next hidden gem, this could not be an episode on the Railway Hotels of Canada without a bit of history and a whole lot of steam. The Expo Rail Museum in Montreal has the biggest, most diverse inventory of railway memorabilia anywhere in Canada. From the original passenger coaches that passengers traveled on at the turn of the 20th century, to some baggage, which, to be honest, I was kind of hoping to find some cash in, but came up a little bit empty here. But check this out. This is 2850, the Royal Hudson, the exact steam locomotive that pulled King George and the Royals across Canada during the war tour of 1939. And the King, who, a lot like myself, was a huge rail fan, spent a decent amount of time riding in the cab that we are actually in right now. The museum even has the original passenger benches from inside Ottawa Union Station, which stopped serving passengers in 1966. And of course, that will be a big focus in next week's episode, and I'll cover more in depth the Chateau Laurier. And last but not least, CN 5702, a mammoth of a steam locomotive that you can see right here hauling passengers out of Montreal's Windsor Station and into Toronto outside the Royal York, which was the focus of last week's video. Now, these pictures are dated roughly sometime in the late 1930s, but following service, she was restored into her original color scheme and put on display here in Montreal. I think it's safe to say that if you love history or if you love steam, this is an absolute must-do in Montreal, and to be honest, it really makes me want to experience a steam locomotive, but if you're in Montreal, you have to visit the Montreal Expo Rail Museum. Now, back in Montreal, the Chateau Champlain's famous design, like I mentioned earlier, was meant to blend with that of Windsor Station next door. And the station itself is a real historical hidden gem. When you walk into the station, you're walking into the same station that countless immigrants came through to a new life in Canada from a corrupt Europe. Not to mention the brave men that made the ultimate sacrifice and left their loved ones here in this very station, as you see here, many of which never end up getting a return ticket. And And the station features a bronze statue in the waiting room put in memory of the over 1,000 Canadian Pacific Railway employees and Canadian patriots that made the ultimate sacrifice in World War I. And that statue has 2 other replicas actually throughout Canada. The second was in Winnipeg at the Canadian Pacific Station on Higgins Avenue, and the third is outside the former Canadian Pacific Waterfront Station in Vancouver. And this statue saw history repeat itself again 20 years later, watching countless men walk out the doors to World War II. And this station even has the original schedule board that serves today as a memorial to when the station hosted dozens of passenger trains a day, including daily departures of the transcontinental route. I mean, just look at how full that board must have been during the golden era of passenger rail travel. Now, on the sad news, this station is no longer in service for long-distance passenger trains and would see its last Canadian Pacific passenger train in 1978 and the final Via Rail train in 1986. The Canadian Pacific would sell the land where the tracks once were and would then become today's present home of the Montreal Canadiens, the Bell Centre. Now, quite frankly, I do think that the Leafs probably have a better chance of winning a cup than a passenger train ever returning here, but this station, it built Canada, and it built the same Canada that we have today. And the final hidden gem in this list is actually in the station. It's daily mail service, and it's still a thing, and it dates back to when trains were the official mail carrier across Canada. And today, you can still use it for free. So the night before, I would end up writing a letter back home to Vancouver for Bella to get when she gets home from this trip. Just let her know how much she means to me, how special it's been to share this coast-to-coast experience together for the last 2 weeks, the same way people did over a century ago, and ultimately just how much she means to me.